Three, two, one.
Woo! Woohoo! Welcome, welcome,
Facebook
welcome.
Live. We are on, we're on, we're on.
Welcome to another day of living above the sun.
What's going on, illuminators, super illuminators, you
Whoa,
bright,
you're
shiny
right.
ones.
Woo!
A coffee morning.
The brightness.
Or a
Is
frappy
amazing.
morning, little frappy morning.
Whoa.
Almond milk, a little protein powder with some blueberries.
Ooh, frapping it. That sounds delish.
Does the body good.
I'm enjoying a little pour over this morning with a pinch of salt.
Ooh, I
But
did
this
try
sea
the
salt
pour over.
mixed with a little Himalayan salt. A good little mixture there.
No honey, just straight up, just Himalayan and
Straight
black
up
coffee.
coffee. I don't open my window until usually around 12. A little before, a little after, somewhere around there.
What's the salt do?
It helps give the coffee a little bit different flavor. Plus, I'm adding some minerals into my body.
Nice.
Since I'm
It
not
cuts the
having
bitterness a
food
little bit too.
I'm sorry, Eric, say that again.
It cuts the bitterness a little bit.
Yes. Anytime we can cut the bitterness, get rid of bitterness, bye. Always a good thing.
Jeez, you're always spiritual.
Not necessarily. Bitter herbs are very, very good for you.
You're right.
That's why I can drink coffee in my window before in my intermittent fasting, because it's a bitter herb. It's a bitter plant. The beans are more bitter than doesn't spike any insulin whatsoever or get your body started for food.
Deanna asks, why are they good for us? Why are bitter herbs good for us? Tell us.
Well, who's got the lowdown?
Go ahead, somebody.
I don't.
Well, God,
I figured Noodle be Googling it by now. Just give Noodle a minute. He'll come up with I think him and Chat GPT are like best buds probably. He's like at 20 seconds, it's like you got like a history class on the whole deal. I love it.
Well, we're certainly supposed to discern them because we've been given special taste bud centers on our tongue to recognize bitter flavors. So
Right. Okay, so I am on the internet. Bitter gives the liver a boost by aiding in the elimination of toxins and detoxification, coordinating the metabolism of sugar and fats, and helping release other things.
well, that's what the gallbladder produces, isn't it? Something like that. It's kind of connected to helping the gastric juices do what they're supposed to do.
Right. So stimulating the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas to produce production even of saliva, bile, and stomach acid.
Interesting. And the bitter herbs, the little list here, this got some powerhouses in it. Dandelion, chicory,
Yes.
golden seal, horseradish, cinnamon, chamomile, valerian, yarrow. Those are all medicinal herbs.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I love cinnamon too. Deanna said.
Cinnamon.
Yeah, and there's something about cinnamon. There's two different types of cinnamon, and of course the one that's been commercialized is not the powerful one, but of course. But yeah, there's two different types of cinnamon. One has far more health benefits than the other. I didn't know about that either. So when they call for cinnamon in an herbal tincture or something of that nature, it's this one type of cinnamon, not the other.
Well, what's the better one?
I don't remember. Cylon is the one that's. Is this Cylon?
That's what, yes, it's Cylon.
Yeah.
I loved when I lived over in Biloxi, but I would travel about 20 minutes
See.
to a friend of mine who owned an herb shop. And when I would go over there, she would had just on the wall, she had shelves of just herbs, containers of herbs. So anything that I was dealing with, I would look up some herbal things that I could take. And so whatever those herbs were, then I would just collect like a teaspoon of this, a teaspoon of that, and I would make my own herbal tea and put it in a little bag and bring it home. And
Mhm.
then I would steep it in a little tea steeper and have that for my tea. So it was just very neat to be able to go there and just choose and make your own recipe and just lots of times there would be some bitter herbs in that, so the tea wouldn't be very tasty. But I knew it was good for me.
Well, I can tell you that I've been doing the castor oil mouth pull for about 2 weeks. Yeah, very cool.
Hmm.
Just I go in the shower now with a mouthful of castor oil.
Now, why did
That's
we
funny.
say, or did we, that castor oil mouth pulling would be better than coconut oil? Did we?
Yeah, because of the time required. I think coconut oil, it said 20 minutes, but
20 minutes.
Yeah.
I've been doing coconut oil. I go for a few minutes. 20 minutes?
Yeah.
it,
Like
I
15, 20 minutes.
yeah, castor oil only is like 2 or 3 minutes, so it's pretty easy.
I've been doing castor oil, coconut oil, and rosemary as a hair oil because of the shampoo I use
Hmm.
is, just elemental. And I can tell the difference. But yeah, okay, 20 minutes. Good golly. Ain't nobody got time for that.
You know, my lovely rosemary. I think I'll get some essential oils going in this room.
I tell you, man, I'm sold on it. I got the croup that's been going around last Thursday, and I could feel it. I could feel it hit my body, and when it moved from my upper respiratory into my lungs, like I felt it sink down in over the course of a movie the other night, and I hit the honey and red onion mixture, and then thyme, oregano, and mullein, which is it helps with your mucous membranes. Man, knock that sucker out of the park. Oh my word! Like I could tell it was something. It was heavy, and it was trying to take over. But that stuff's great. But it's funny. You get that little shot of oregano, thyme, and mullein. It's heavy. Like the whole kitchen smells like oregano.
Right.
But man, it works like a freaking champ. It's the best battle I've had against a cold ever. And it just took it out. And it's all stuff you can buy from local shops. No pharmaceuticals needed, and it was fantastic. So man, I'm sold. Especially that honey onion. It is not as bad as it sounds.
What do you do?
You take like a half a red onion, put it in a little half pint jar, and cover it with honey, and then let it sit on the
Fused
counter.
onion. Yeah.
Yeah, let it sit on the counter throughout the day. You can also throw garlic in.
Yeah,
I've seen
gotcha,
different
gotcha.
tinctures of it, even cayenne pepper and all that different. Barbara O'Neill talks about it, but just honey and onion,
And you
and
just let it sit
just let it sit.
in the living room. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you drain or if you strain out the onions, you can put it in the fridge. It'll last for a few weeks, or 2 to 3 months, I think. Depending on the internet. But Use your nose. You'll be able to tell if it goes bad.
Yeah.
And it doesn't smell nasty or anything, but it is strong, and a little spicy, but it's good and it soothes the throat. Like, start this typical whatever rhinovirus. The sore throat is what starts, and then it moves to the upper, and then moves into the lungs, and you usually end up dealing with that crap for weeks sometimes. As it slowly goes away. But there's something with the onion and the honey. There's a natural antibiotic that is created.
I want to say I thought I heard it might have been Cliff High when he was talking early on in COVID, taking vitamin C, liposomal
Yeah, liposomal
vitamin
vitamins.
D. But
What I take.
what he was talking about, or maybe somebody else, but trying to catch it
Mm-hmm.
up in here and manage it here, where it becomes more challenging is when it gets beyond the throat and
Correct.
starts getting down. So they're
Yep.
trying to deal with it here. And I'm always hacking and making sure, not trying to swallow stuff that's whatever's,
Oh, yeah.
just nasty, but
You
just
can tell. You can tell when your system got something in it don't belong. Yeah. Yeah, it's an invader. And it's amazing. Like literally felt it go in to my chest the next morning, typical cough up. Hit that honey onion 3, 4, 5 times that day. Gone.
what are you taking, a teaspoon? So you're once
Just a teaspoon.
a teaspoon.
Yeah, yeah. You can get some onion chunks in it. It sounds horrific, like honey and onion raw, but it's not bad, and I'm amazed by it. It's something as simple, and it's been a folk remedy for a long time.
Cool.
Real simple. I know some people put half a cut onion out on the counter when people in the house are sick, because onion does something, absorbs microbes in the air, I guess.
Yep. It gets all the,
Yeah. Pretty
that's
crazy.
why obviously you don't want to leave an onion out and then eat it
Correct. Right.
or,
Yeah.
use it in any of your food because
Left.
you basically get everything that it's been absorbing.
Yeah, like bad potato
I would
salad.
put, onion, if you got any type of foot issues or even sitting to sleep overnight with a slice of onion on your foot,
Yeah.
obviously in a sock, and it will draw out all the stuff that you've been holding on to. So yeah, it's a great. It feels weird. I did that once or twice, and when you have something on your foot or something, it's like you're not, I didn't get a good night's sleep because it just felt weird, but
Oh
I
yeah.
it was doing its job, so that was the point. But yeah, it's like, oh, this is kind of weird. Plus, it smells like onions. I'm a little hungry throughout the yeah.
Golly, man.
I had to saute them first. Caramelized onions.
Oh.
What's
I
wild is
I have a little dog that sleeps with us. We don't want that happening.
no.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a bad day.
Yeah.
What's wild is onion. It's an onion. What the freak is? It's a topping. It's really an onion.
You have to
No
ask yourself, how did
prescription
we get to that?
necessary.
How did they discover that in the first place, right?
Exactly.
Oh, I think I'll try an onion on my foot to see if that works.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Imagine the
What other
village
things did you try
side
before you
eye.
got to the onion?
The village side eye that person was getting. Like, you did what? I strapped that to my feet.
Well, the mushroom didn't work, so I tried the next thing.
Maybe the mushroom helped come up with the idea.
Isn't that weird? I mean, I know we've talked about this before, but like, how does people come up with this stuff?
Yeah.
Back in the day, especially in the United States, we think all this stuff, or not much in our circles now, but all this stuff is weird. But they used to like, I mean, it was like the witches that would. This is the witch's brew, and they would burn them at the stake for brewing up this crazy garlic thing. I mean, in reality, how did they know that garlic, you hang, garlic and onions around your neck is going to ward off the vampires and stuff? How did that all come about? But the same thing here. How did they come about unless somebody taught them or they heard a still small voice go over there and check out this and or put it on your and it made them feel better, you know?
Yeah.
How did that, yeah.
Yeah, Deanna says ancient alchemy.
Yeah.
Love it.
Right. Well, how did Marcel Vogel know, oh, I need to take this crystal and I need to cut it and I need to cut it to this shape? Because he got a download. He got a download
By
from
16s or
dreams,
nines or something. Everything's nines.
and he saw the shape, no words, but he saw the shape and knew, was intelligent enough to know what that shape was and to do the crystal in that way and cut it and tested it and it seemed to carry frequency.
I know, isn't that just pretty cool? Pretty cool.
It is wild. I mean, the our minds now just assume like it's a process of elimination or some kind of scientific understanding, about the makeup and structure of this substance leads us to the conclusion, or would lead you to the conclusion that this does this. Like a puzzle piece. Like, oh, I found out that the onion is shaped like this. The thing you need is shaped like this to receive it, so therefore, blah. So either our idea of their thought processes and understanding, like empirical understanding of the world, was different than the history we're presented with, or they tried everything and we just don't, hear about the people that tried stuff that didn't work.
Yeah, because they either got
Right.
race died or
Right, yeah. The guy who strapped jalapenos to his feet, no one believed him. And it didn't work out. That's the hot foot came from. But there's something, or a spiritual download.
Oh.
A download. I mean, we even in our understanding of history, the Nephilim gave metallurgical knowledge to people pre-flood,
Right.
to get them going, and not just our history, but other cultures' histories have a similar example of someone in the spirit, something spirit intervened and gave us, crops and metallurgy and husbandry and told us things. So no one has a pat answer for it, and everyone says it came from the spirit. The spirit did something. No matter Judeo-Christian or not, they attribute the rapid acceleration of man's understanding of the tools in creation that benefit or harm from the spirit. So yeah, there's some angel out there. It's like, yeah, onion thing. That's me. I did that. You should have seen their face when they're like, put soup on my feet. Like, what? That's the dumb. They're gonna burn me at the freaking stake. And like, trust me, man, it'll get rid of this cold.
Right.
It's gonna be a long hill to go up, convincing the people around you, that your stew ingredient can help you, not die.
I think there's one thought crossed my mind is the technology of intention. Like, it's the statement of necessity is the mother of invention. And at the core of that necessity is an intent and desire for something. I need this fixed. So they bend into that. And so I think it's a blending of what we were just talking about, where it's the spiritual influence upon the process of discovery, right? But I wonder at the same time, as something is coming, it is a magnetic draw because of the intention, right? I'm in pursuit of an answer, and it puts out a vibration that draws the answer to me.
The
And
answer
that
to me.
answer could come through comes to the imagination, which is also a spiritual gateway, right?
Yeah.
Whether someone imagine or has an encounter with a being that downloads them, or they just in their dream, the inspiration comes, right? But there's this correlation, this bridging of the spiritual realm that is being attracted to that person based on the intention and desire, the pain point that says, I want this solved. I need an answer. And they, as a magnet, draw that to them. And so what becomes kind of an inspiration, I don't know, I just thought I'd try it out, was more than just you know, a passing idea. It was something that they were bending their intentions towards, and became the lightning rod that,
Yeah.
you know, drew the lightning to strike them versus their neighbor, right? Because of that vibration of intention going on.
So what jumped out at me is, to me, that reminds me of the morphic field, right? Which is all those that have that, the cloud of witnesses and all the things that they've done and discovered, all of that frequency, all of that energy is very alive. So everything that's happened before us, all the discoveries, all of that stuff is in the morphic field. So to me, it feels like however that happens, whether it's inspiration, thinking that maybe that inspiration, it's tapping into the morphic field and the answers are coming from that realm and dimension. Fascinating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we've just been, it's funny to me that it's funny to me. That's what's interesting, is that because for the last, couple hundred years, our culture has bent towards empirical evidence and dismissing meaning, spirit, and morphic field language. Even now, obviously, it's gaining more traction because you can't avoid it. But it, it's funny to me that it's funny to me. Because the assumption that there's a guy out there that was just like, okay, let's get all the vegetables together and strap them to different body parts
Yeah.
and see what happens, right? That's the empirical method, and he's got a little chart, and he's like, today potatoes on my elbow did nothing, right? Like it's silly. That's sillier. That's more comical to imagine than what is more likely is, somebody who's seen sickness ravage people around him, and because he has empathy and doesn't want that to happen, he's like, there's somebody, or there's got to be a way to remedy this with things we have at hand,
So,
because we have to.
so when you talk about the onion on the foot, okay, because science is the total collection of knowledge gained by man's observation of the physical world that exists in the present. You can repeat your observations. So if you're going to do a scientific experiment, so enough people have put onions on their foot that it's observable that if you put an onion on your foot, this is the outcome. To me, that's like science, right? So
But foot was probably not the first option.
yeah,
It was onion, just put it anywhere in your skin and you'll begin to
yeah,
it'll do the pulling,
yeah,
right? But
yeah.
it's the first away from the nose. So, you walk around with onion all day long. It's like, I don't want that near my hands, or, I taped it to the back of my head, but I couldn't stand the fact that I was smelling onion all day. So put it down farthest away from my nose.
At first I was like, wait, why would it matter? Isn't that the worst? Like, usually the issue starts here, so why would I put the onion down there? You strap onions to your cheek. That would make more sense. Like, this is where the problem is. Instead, put it there, but then you're like, no, it's the smell. Like, oh, okay, now it actually makes sense. Like, yeah, I'll do the onion thing, pal, but I'm not putting it on my face. Put it on my feet. Hey, it works even better. It's fascinating and beautiful, because
Okay, guys. So they were very intelligent. When we do essential oils, think about it. We know, where do you place these? And like the bottom of the feet, we know all the different places that represent and go to all the points of the organs and all of that. They knew all that. So they knew if we put it on the feet, this is a very good place that it's going to go up and through the body. It's going to be a fast way of getting this into your system, because they knew the bottom of your feet it's like receptors. like when you go out onto the dirt and you walk around on the earth and your
How did they
feet.
know that? That's the thing. They had to discover that. That's the whole point.
They didn't have Grey's Anatomy.
They didn't have like a grid like we do going, oh, this is the gallbladder, and if you hit this, this is going to be the heart. So there had to
In so
be,
many ways, they were more intelligent back then than we are. We're intelligent in other ways, but in those ways, and then we've kind of lost that, but they were so intelligent in all of that. How
Yeah.
did they, the same way?
that
We
pre-flood.
know, how did they know how to,
Post flood.
how to manipulate frequency
Tower of
and
Babel,
move stones
everything.
around and do the pyramids and know how to do all of the things? Yes, all of the things that we know of.
Yeah, I wonder if the Dark Ages were really as dark as they say they were.
That was the age of all these really discoveries, probably.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Now the bubonic plague, admittedly, that's not a good example. That does not support my argument. And in fact, it's funny. That's how they got rid of most all black cats. Was the superstition around cats and the people who survived the plague, because the cats killed the rats that didn't, so the fleas, blah 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 blah. And that's where a lot of the witch lore came from, is these women who had cats who didn't get the plague. But so that's a bad example. But prior to that, and in other areas of the world, because my history class, in my head, it's like the world only existed in Europe during that time period. There was another planet that
It's just
wasn't
dark,
having-
dark in Europe. That was it.
That's it.
Dark in
Yeah,
Europe.
yeah. They turned the light off in Europe. That was it. But everywhere else, it was still on, and developing. In Eastern medicine, which even now, our Western mindset is saying, okay, hey, there's something here. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know exactly how it's doing this, but I can't.
They've been
identify
ahead of the game
results.
for a long time. We just
And yeah, like
Well,
for
if I
the guy
recall
who was
right,
on
I remember
Onion-
reading that during the Dark Ages, it was like the Golden Enlightenment time in the Middle East in that time
Right.
frame. So, but because Western culture has kind of been the predominant structure for the past 100+ years, that history is diminished as far as its dissemination across the globe, because it's not, well, across the Western
right.
countries. So we assume that it just went dark for, a few hundred years, 300, 500 years, whatever,
Yeah.
until we crawled out of the cracks and finally started being civilized again.
Yes.
And I question so much. I question, like, I don't know if I believe anything anymore. Like,
Right.
how do we really know that? Was that
That's
really,
wisdom.
did they rewrite history? Did they rewrite that and just put that in there? Like, what was it? And then on another thing too, if we believe that there were others that came and brought information for tools and for all the other things that they taught, well then could we also say, what if there were others other than those others that came and taught other things? I mean, who knows?
Absolutely. Oh, I think they knew some stuff.
How many others are there? God's very creative.
I'll drink to that. I just keep thinking about how the compound bow was discovered, or at least the improvement of it. And it was actually somebody had a dream, and in it, the father gave them the details, the patents, everything to create the compound bow, which hasn't actually been around for that long, actually. And in the process, created a better tool than just the bow and arrow. It's a pretty cool, story. Yeah, that's
I
why
think
paying
that-
attention to your dreams is so key.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Tina.
I think that being childlike, that's what it is. Because children don't think about, well, how could this be? Or, they don't try to figure it out. They just have their imagination and they go with it, and they're an open door to whatever comes in. It's just open, that openness. And I think that's the openness that the word talks about when it says we have to come with childlike faith to things. So if you're coming into a place that you can be open to the things you do not understand, not being analytical, but just letting God reveal and thinking about things, and let Him, if you'll just be a source to let things flow through, then we will get a whole lot more. But when we try to analyze it or try to make sense of it or just say, well, that can't be, that's not that childlike way of receiving things. That's like Aaron Smith when he was getting those downloads from God and telling him to do this and put some dots on a paper, and he had to just go with it. That didn't make sense. He could have just said, "Oh my gosh, I'm being crazy." But he did it. And and then there was a point where he had to stand up on a chair to look down at it to see what God was trying to show him, because he couldn't see it from that flat angle. He had to look at it from a higher view. And as he looked down, things started coming together. And he just let God use him to be able to invent and create something that is very needed for the future.
Yep. Come on.
But if he wouldn't have had a childlike faith, and he would not have allowed his imagination to just go wherever it needed to go and to be that open portal to flow through, then it would have never happened, and God would have had to give that to someone else who would.
Mhm.
Well, that ties back around to Jeff talking about intentionality, right? Because it starts in the imagination, which is it's a gateway in the soul. So you need to know where the imagination starts. Why you need to have a pure imagination. You need to clean up your junk, imagine different things, that whole thing, right? So imagination, desire. Then Jeff mentioning the intentionality, that technology. Intentionality works for the benevolent and the malevolent. So when you see the things that are happening below the sun, okay, there are entities walking around that are doing bad things intentionally. Well, and you're going to get bad outcomes, negative outcomes. But the technology of intentionality, that's the power. That if we can get our thoughts, our speech, our actions to line up with a pure imagination, desiring good things, and then the intentionality, and then obviously the faith, the staying power to know that what you're thinking, what you're desiring, what you're intending for is a good thing, and it's a dog on the bone. I'm not giving up that bone. That's why, benevolent intentionality and malevolent intentionality we choose because of free will. We have, I mean, Yahweh's just awesome, giving us the ability to choose, which is another technology in the soul, right? And this is just so good. I love these conversations.
Eric, you have what you
I mean, I stepped away, so I don't want to push the tide
no,
if it's going in a good direction. But
Go, bro.
so I've been going to this Celtic Eucharist at this Episcopal church, and I've just been digging. Like, okay, how old is this? And it's super small too. Like, we should be in a basement, like there's 10 people here, and we're in this sanctuary that could probably hold a couple hundred, and we're all kind of spread out, but it's cool. And even afterwards, we went and we go to this local bikes and beer place, and the priestess, I don't think they call her a priestess, the lady who does the thing, like, she showed up and hung out with us, and they're talking some crazy stuff. Stuff came out last night that the topic was personal theology, and It ran the gambit, man. You know, to the end where they were like, you know, well, was Christ the only Christ? Was Yeshua the only Christ? And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, I didn't know I had walls, but you're stepping on them. And it gets a little interesting. But at the same time, we're meeting after doing this thing. And the opening, apparently, I think this goes back to like the 9th century. So this has survived a couple thousand years. But I don't know that for sure. So if I'm going to read this, and it would be foolish of me to read something thinking it's a few thousand years old, but it was like written in 1967. But I don't think so. This goes back beyond that. And they were saying stuff. I'm like, man, they knew something. But I'll read it real quick. Glorious. This is how they open it. Glorious Lord, I give you greeting. Let the church and the chancel praise you, whatever the chancel is. Let the chancel and the church praise you. Let the plain and the hillside praise you. Let the world's 3 well springs praise you. 2 above wind and 1 above land. Let the dark and the daylight praise you. Abraham, founder of the faith, praised you. Let the life everlasting praise you. Let the birds and the honeybees praise you. Let the shorn stems and the shoots praise you. Both Aaron and Moses praise you. Let the male and female praise you. Let the 7 days and stars praise you. Let the air and the ether praise you. Let the books and the letters praise you. Let the fish and the swift streams praise you. Let the thought and the action praise you. Let the sand grains and the earth clods praise you. And I shall praise you, Lord of glory, glorious Lord, I give you greeting. And I'm reading that like, man, what do these cats know? What are the freaking 3 well springs? What the ether? So they had an idea of the ether. 7 days and stars, books and letters, thought and action. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but it just feels like I'm like, there's something in here. They knew something. This goes beyond my call to worship in my Baptist church growing up, and that's no shade on the church. I'm not trying to say anything, but it just, there's language in there that it goes beyond what I'm used to. Like,
Recovery of sight is coming to the blind. The scales are being removed. We're awakening.
It sounds a lot like the Book of Enoch, actually. I was actually reading some of the chapters in Book of Enoch yesterday after Jeff and I got finished with our hangout time, and it was really talking about the north, south, east, and west, and how the north, south, and east gates, and the winds coming out and everything. Some gate it's actually stronger in one gate with the winds and all that, where the other gates aren't as strong, and the stars and the entities and it was just really, I'm like, especially with all the weather that we're having right now, the weather in California and where my kids are at, and um my family's at, all the rain that's happening. And I'm like, okay, so what gate is open right now, Father? Is it the one gate where just the raging, the rain and stuff's happening, or is it the other two? But I was just thinking, we have so much stuff going on around us. We're so busy, and so this that we don't realize. I mean, back then, what you're reading, Eric, they had time to observe all that.
oh yeah,
They lived in the elements. There wasn't street lights everywhere. There wasn't
yeah,
white noise. Just, they were, it was the quietness. They were the be still and know. This was
dark
David.
and
Be still and
silence.
know. How do you do that?
Mm.
You're out in the sheep, just observing the elements, and you realize that the stars are really living beings, and they get released every day out of the gates,
Mm.
and they know their place, and they stay their place. And it was interesting that it said that some of the stars actually left their place early, and so they had to hold them back until the time was right. It's like, this is the coolest thing.
Isn't it?
This is, I was talking about the pause earlier that I wanted
Oh
to
yeah.
kind of come into, and this is actually a great place. Pause, the pause, the Selah, the time that we get to, like, I find myself needing that pause more and more on a daily, being able to just, and it doesn't have, a pause can be for just as short as a couple minutes or 30 seconds or whatever, just to go in and I call it a reset, just, or, however you want. It could be your time, your 15 minutes, hour, whatever during the day. But it was just like, when I was working retail, busy, 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 45, 50 hours a week. And I would be, running, customers, store, all this. And I'd be running in the store, and all of a sudden I'd feel his presence. I'd be halfway to a call, or, coming back from a call, and I would just feel his presence, and it would just right there, man. I was just like, I would make a quick pause in the, and I would physically posture myself and just, and it might be, I might all of a sudden look at a product, acting like I'm looking at a product, so I don't look totally weird as I'm, here, what just happened. But I'd look at a product, I just feel the download, the presence of the Lord just, and I knew it was just my time to just pause, and then I'd go about my day, you know. But it was those pauses that really caused me to just be inward, go in, step in. Because in reality, when we pause, it's more than just you're stepping out of time. You're dealing with more than just, that 30 seconds. What does it say? A day is 1,000 years. So that pause right there can allow me to go into the dimension realms where we're at anyways, and maybe reset some things. Maybe my vision, I'm seeing some things. Maybe it is really allowing me to see how I need to merchandise something instead of doing the normal deal. It's all of a sudden I get this click. Oh, this click. That's what I really need to do to up the sales for that day or something. How many times I, was in retail, and I worked for a pharma, I worked for a Rite Aid for a lot of years. And I'd go in and, I would posture myself with intention during the day, just like, Father, if there's anybody that, I need to talk to. I mean, you get sick people in there constant. So I would go into these different, and they would be looking at the different, meds and whatever, and on their way to the pharmacy. And I'm like, every once in a while, Daddy would just, not every person, but every once in a while, I'd just get that, all right, go to that person and just start chatting with them. And pretty soon I'd go and find out that they have fibromyalgia or something, or something, and I would just like pray over them. They'd forget why they were there, and they leave healed because of, just me being intentional and pausing, and I did that over time. So it wasn't like, these stores became my melting pot. So I would stew in them in a good way, 45 hours a week, 45, 50 hours a week, all the time. I'd get there early. I'd walk the perimeters of the, what I felt like. And I'm a sound guy anyway, so I bring my little bell. I mean, they had cameras in there. I don't know what they thought back, here I am. And I would go in there, go set the, put the alarm, turn the alarm off, and then make my rounds, and I'd be looking at, then I'd bring my bell, So if the Father said, go to this corner, I'd go to that corner and do whatever. And then intentionally know that maybe this is where I need to be Oh, I bring my djembe in there. I have a big old drum. I don't know if you guys have seen this thing. This thing is like heavy. I bring that in there and I just play it, walk around, set it down in the middle of the store, worship. Just, it wasn't about actually going to war. It was about my intention being with the Father and what He has me do, because this is what He has me do,
You were just releasing
and
the
just
sin.
play the music, play the beat, bring it up to the office, just going at it. Releasing Papa's presence in there. Because back in the day, I'll tell you this, I would go in the stores and so the witches and where I was at, in there, I was in the midst of all that stuff. And so the way that they would do their stuff back in the day is they would take, the tape cassettes that we have back in the day, they would speak all this stuff. And then they would take it and they would pull that stuff out and line it up across my stores. Remember, the words that we speak are powerful and they release a frequency. And so what I would do, and I would constantly, oh yeah, I would drive, I drove from my town to another town at one time, and there was a point where I would go into Lake County, which is very depressed and whatever. And right when you get down the hill to Lake County, I would see loads of that stuff. And the Father would tell me to stop, and I would get out of my car and just tear that stuff up. Plead the blood of Jesus. Woo, you're awesome. And I just tear that stuff up. Go about my day, because the blood of Jesus and the works of my hands can take all that stuff. But these are the things that I didn't know until I started pausing. And of course, the positive stuff. I mean, I'm just talking about that. It's like they know more than we do. And that's the crazy thing, is the body of Christ, we've been so scared of all that stuff that we say, oh, we can't do any of that stuff. Man, when I started getting, in the presence, there's fullness of joy and life forevermore. It's just like, okay, so when I'm in the presence, that brings joy to the whole store, not just me. I'm the lightning rod that's being released, that I just go and release His presence. I mean, I don't know how many. There was a time where every Saturday I'd get to work an hour early, and I'd go into the office. Back in the day, right, it had their, and they still do, all these stores have their little, where the manager and everything, they do their stuff, and they have a window or glass that you can't see in, but we can see you to kind of just observe. It's like the deck. I'd go in there and I would be like, I would be having for an hour an encounter. I wrote stuff on cardboard boxes. I wrote stuff on all this stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you doing, bud? I'm writing this stuff. And every once in a while, one of my employees would come in and they'd get rocked. Here we are. And the coolest thing is, customers, it would be like the quietest part. The Father allowed us to be able to have those pauses. And I, for a whole month, got downloads every Saturday morning. And I got them written down in my journals. I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, and some of you guys know me. I'm not quiet. So when the presence of God would come, here I am. I mean, the store's open, customers are out there, and I am like, I'm physically like, spirit birthing stuff, and here I'm. I remember one time I had to. It was so strong, and people say, well, you can control that stuff. You could stop that. You could stop whatever you want, and all that. For me, I'm not stopping anything Papa's doing. I could be in the middle of the store, and all of a sudden he hits me like a bolt of lightning. You'll hear Paul My
Drive
wife
a
has had
75
to,
and a 55. Everybody
my wife has had to
down the
carry me out
highway.
of places. Yeah. Yeah, it gets a little bit, if you have any performance or any fear of man during those times, it's just like, okay. I mean, yeah, I've had some really cool things, and I'm just talking about the pause. I don't know why I felt like I needed to go through all this, but just being in the pause is so important because it's your intentionality is we call it FaceTime now. You're going in, and in those times, even though it may be it's short and sweet, the outcome and the algorithm that you are releasing into the atmosphere is not only for you, obviously, but it's like, you know what? Daddy wants to do so much more through us than we realize. And that's the awakening that's happening right now is sons coming into maturity. Man, and who knows how many other people were doing that in my town or where I'm at. That was just one. That was just me. That was just my experiences. You know, I mean, I knew wherever a thief was stealing in my store because I could follow their walk line and feel where they were at, and I could follow them at one point and then all of a sudden find out where they were. And I mean, these are the things that we, as you know, we're supposed to be doing, or at least, I had a season where I was in that, where the Father allowed me to be able to just walk and experience these things in such a cool way. He wanted to help my business grow. He wanted to help my business from getting, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but Yeshua comes to bring life and life evermore. That's us. We come to bring life and life evermore because Christ is in us. So I was able to go, you know what? You're not stealing from me. And whenever I had those confrontations with these people, it always ended well. They always gave the product back. They always admitted what was going on because it's in his kindness that he draws us to himself. And then they were able to walk out. Sometimes we did have to, you can't be in our store anymore, but most of the time, dispelled the fear, dispelled the reason why they had to steal stuff, and go from there. So
Yeah.
anyways, those are just my experiences of, and you know what, those have changed now. I don't always get those. So now the Father's doing different things in me and experiencing different things because I'm in a whole different business now. Now I'm in the schools, and so there's a whole different way of doing things. But the pause is so important. I'm finding myself needing those pauses more and more and more, just with everything that's going on right now. Just I want to be the pause to bring peace and love and joy and and just to let the Father know that I just want to be with him and connect with him. We're always with them, but just like sometimes we just need to say, man, I love you, Father. I love you, Ruach. Thank you for breathing through me, and because these kids need it. Oh my gosh. And, you know,
I like the part that you're talking about about the witches when they would come in and they would use their power that they have acquired from the enemy who wants to come steal and kill
and
and destroy. So has counterfeited everything that is ours and has taught them how to use it on a counterfeited for him and not for God. So they're coming and using their voice and using it to whatever destruction that he's trying to kill, steal, and destroy, and put it into that place and into that store. And in your pause and in hearing from the Father and in what you did there was you went in and whatever gates they had opened, whatever portals that they were opening, you were shutting down, whatever frequency they were releasing from the enemy side, counterfeiting, you were changing, you were breaking it down, you were replacing, you were whatever ley lines they were trying to lay things out on, you were replacing it and putting God on those ley lines. Like that is what I feel like we're awakening to. Instead of saying, I don't want no part of the enemy and Satan and I need to stay away from him, we're like not afraid anymore because we know that we are sons of God and that our power is above that. And if we're sitting with the Father and we're with the Father and we have the heart of the Father, that we can, as the word says, overcome all of his tactics.
Yep.
Everything that he is, because we are above that. We are above him. We don't have to fight him. The fight's already been done. And God in us sits upon the throne and we sit next to him and we are there to be able to say no to the enemy, and everything that he does, we can just speak it. We can just say the name of Yeshua. We can plead the blood over. We can do whatever it takes that God is telling us as long as we are in relationship with God. You are in relationship with the creator of you, of Yahweh, then we are overcomers sitting in that relationship. But it's those that don't know who they are, aren't in relationship with him, aren't pressing in, that don't know who they are, and they won't until they come into the relationship with him to learn who they are, to bring heaven to earth, to bring the kingdom to earth, and to shut the enemy down.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, it's good timing. Oh, that in that Eucharist, it's also a healing anointing, and the friend I go with, his favorite part is this, and it's funny they call the person up front the celebrant, but everybody's so solemn, And here I am, this like fish out of water, and I'm like, why are we not screaming this? But let us pray. Heaven is intertwined with earth. We have taken the divine life into ourselves. And so now each may say, I rise up clothed in the strength of Christ. I shall not be imprisoned. I shall not be harmed. I shall not be downtrodden. I shall not be left alone. I shall not be tainted. I shall not be overwhelmed. I go clothed in Christ's white garments. I go freed to weave Christ's patterns. I go loved to serve Christ's weak ones.
That's awesome.
Oh.
Pretty freaking powerful.
Yeah. That's who we are.
Juggernauts.
Awful and unstoppable.
Illuminators.
Yeah, and they ordered angels. Keep watch, dear Lord, with those who work or watch or weep this night, and give your angels charge over those who sleep. Tend the sick, Lord Christ, give rest to the weary, bless the dying, soothe the suffering, pity the afflicted, shield the joyous, and all for your love's sake.
That's the key.
All out of love.
Yes.
And that thing, that first poem is from the 11th century, smack dab in the middle of the Dark Ages. Not so dark indeed, man. The revolution
Not
will not
quite the
be
picture we've
televised.
been painted, right?
Yeah.
So good, tribe. We always leave on a good note.
Oh wow, yeah, top of the hour.
We can come in and be very light and talk about some plants and some herbs, but we usually end deep. So if you ever come on and you're like, I'm not going to listen today, hang on, it gets better.
So much more than onions on the feet.
That's right.
Companions.
So good.
Thanks for smelling around.
Right.
Until next time,
We love you.
keep loving big. Stay in the way, stay in the path.
All about relationship. Walk on.